Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a new YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe right now. Leave a comment on the video. Share it with your friends. It's also a podcast, 3 and Out, wherever you listen with me, Jon Middlekauff, Apple, Spotify. We have you covered, as well as thevolume.com. We have merch. Check out. I got 3 and Out hats right now. Thevolume.com. Search the podcast. Buy some merch. You know, obviously you had a relationship with Jon and known him for a long time. How does that relationship change? I mean, clearly a role of being someone's friend and not being in business with him, then becoming his GM. Was it an eye-opening, immediate experience, or was it an easier transition for you?
Well, I had known Jon kind of just talking football with him a little bit socially. You can sit in a room and have a beer with Jon and have a great time. And the one thing I loved about Jon, and when I took the job, I believed it was the most important thing, was that Jon has a passion for the game that's unfiltered. And I think I do too. And I really believe that if two guys felt that strongly about the game of football, that they ought to be able to get to the right decision for the building. Because that's what it's about. It's about the building.
For sure.
You do whatever's best for the damn building, right? And it's okay to have disagreements. Trust me. I mean, every coach and GM in the league has them. They're actually good if you do it constructively and you sit down and watch tape together. And, you know, the more coaches help the scouts with what they're looking for and why at every position, the more it helps us do our jobs. So I'm all in on coach involvement. I'm a coach's son. I am all in on that. Ultimately, I think most buildings are served with the personnel staff following it 100% of the way through.
You know, I'll never forget when you guys signed Mariota. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of your comments after the signing was like, "Hey, every GM and coach can say they liked you. You know for a fact where me and Jon publicly stood on you. You have my draft board." And that was, I never really thought about it like that, but you were right. And he went, and he's gone on to continue to be, continue his career. Was that a point when you just dealt with, especially some players, older players that you had liked previously? Did that help you out in some of your negotiations? Because obviously, and you've publicly talked about this, maybe it's changed with Mark because of more and more of the Vegas money's coming, but the Raiders' financial situation relative to the Cowboys or the Niners or the Rams is just has been differently. Maybe that's changing, but did that help having a personal connection of like, we like you? And I did from 2012 or whatever year.
There's no doubt for both Jon and I, we had a track record publicly on television, and anybody can look it up. And I think that was good for us. And the Raiders, I got there the last year in Oakland in 2019. And, Mark Davis's financial situations was probably one of the least positive in the league. And now in Vegas, and then in 2020, our first year in Vegas, COVID hits and we have no fans.
Yeah.
No income, no revenue. So we had to structure contracts a certain way with our guarantees. Okay, different than a lot of teams. And that's frustrating because we didn't have as much cash as a lot of other teams around the league did. And Jon would get frustrated. Well, look at the Chargers. Look what they did. Look what this team did. Look at that. Why can't we do that? And we just couldn't. And that's okay. As long as you know going in what the situation is and how you have to structure your cash. That's all right. But to your point, I think it did help with a lot of players. Nelson Aguilar, he knew exactly where Jon and I stood on him. And he was coming out of Philly and we wanted to sign him. And he signed with us and had a hell of a year. I thought Jon got the most out of Nelson. I thought Jon did an unbelievable job with Derek Carr. Getting the, since Jon left, Derek has gone downhill. Greg Olson, our offensive coordinator, also had a big hand in that. But, a lot of people knew where Jon and I stood on a lot of players.
I watched some of you went on Chris Long's podcast. You've been on a couple times, I think, but last year and talking about how after the 21 season, you were getting calls for Derek, that were in the first round range. And then just a year or two later, they have to cut him for nothing. Did you guys ever seriously entertain? I know you're not, what happened then, but was Derek always because you guys, it's not like you were drafting quarterbacks high. So it's fair to say, because that was always a polarizing discussion, how much they like
Yeah.
him, how much they don't like him.
Yeah.
Well, he was your quarterback
Yeah.
consistently. It's not like so
Right.
what was your overall experience with Derek Carr? And did you guys ever come close to trading him?
No, we never. I mean, the reality is in the NFL, the way I look at it is there's always going to be X number of franchise quarterbacks. And that number could be five, six, seven, eight, whatever it is. And you and I could, could look at a list and you could say they're five, I could say they're seven, but you know what it looks like and smells like when they're franchise guys. One group below that, let's say there's seven or eight, six, seven, eight franchise. One group below that's another five or six guys that I think you can win with. And meaning you can win even up to a Super Bowl with this group of guys as long as you're good enough surrounding them, both on both sides of the ball. I felt strongly that each year with Jon, Dirk got better. And by the end of the 21 season, whether you were a Derek Carr guy or not, I think you probably had to say he's a top 12 or 13 quarterback. If you liked him, he might have been 8, 9, 10. If you didn't like him, he was 12, 13, 14. But Derek was a top 12 quarterback in our opinion. So the question is, somebody can give you a first-round pick. But if you don't have an answer for who's getting under center next year, that first-round pick isn't doing you any good. Unless you're using it for leverage to get up and get a guy you want, unless you're using it. But we never got an answer satisfactory as to how we would replace Derek. And from our perspective, we were getting better every year. We went from, Jon's first year, they had 4 wins. Then we went to 7, 8, 10. We thought we were getting better, and we thought Derek was playing at a higher level each season.